Hey guys, me again. I'm going to make two videos. One to discuss the draft process or the budget process again, and sort of what is going on with the vote on the 10th and the budget hearing on or the budget workshop that I believe is the 28th, and the budget vote that will happen on April 14th. Um, and then as well as give you what I expect the draft budget to be but for this video, I want to talk about the discussion that's going on the Village of Waterloo Facebook community on dissolving the police to save $1 million a year, and that what people are saying in there and what some options might be and all those sorts of things. Um, we're investigating things, we're looking into things. None of those are far enough in the process to say we're thinking about doing it and defend it or anything like that right now. But there are some good points in there, and also discussion on whether that is a place to look at for trimming the fat. This is the one thing that we want that's a non-negotiable thing in our village. We sort of pay to live here, and that's a service that we don't want touched. Shared services with Seneca Falls, shared services with the county, what the state's doing with money on these sorts of things, all that sort of stuff. The first thing I'd like to say is our police officers' pay. There was a comment that I just want to correct. It's not in completely. I don't think it was in being said in a purposely malicious way or anything like that. But we don't overpay compared to the county or anything like that. We're not poaching any officers. Our last five hires actually were Waterloo High School graduates that I think most of them were recruited by us, sent to the academy from us, and then joined with us, and they're patrolmen with us now. Maybe two of the higher ups were at the county at one point, but I think they had their other motives for coming here. So that's the pay. We do lease our cars. They are nice and new and shiny. I think that's actually probably a savings to everybody. One of the reasons we have the car count we have is because when we used to buy them outright, they were always in the shop, and we had two people on at all times, and that thinking just sort of kept going. We're talking with the chief now and the officers if the number of cars is what we need, but we are in a lease and what breaking that means and all that stuff. But uh, that's one way as a conservative. If it's a cost we shouldn't be paying, then we'll cut it. But we're looking into that. Shared services when it comes to anything, fire, water, sewer, even the rec center at this point requires people to play ball. Uh, the truth of the matter is, the village of Waterloo provides a lot of services to a lot of people, but we also use the general fund. So when we ask people to help us out with some of these things, they get skittish, and rightfully so, that this goes into our general fund, and we don't prove to them unless they want to dive into our budget every year that it went to where we said it was going to go. The other thing is Seneca Falls is, for lack of a better word, flush with cash, right? I think they just got offered 10 million a year from the SMI, and they get 3 or 5 or something like that now. So if we were going to do a police protection district or a north end of the county protection district for the police, they'd have to play ball, and I don't see that happening anytime soon, especially if the $10 million deal gets approved. The other thing is, if Waterloo and Sioux Falls wanted to investigate becoming a city, there's sales tax implications there too, right? Like, this is all shared services things that we are thinking about trying to bring on and talk to people about, but we require them to play ball. Uh, so that said, the payrolls are on par. If we want to keep guys that are from Waterloo and not send them to the state troopers to be investigators or the sheriff to be deputies, and I think we're pretty good there. But one thing I know that when I knocked on doors uh, and talked to people is that police protection, two guys, 24/7, 365, and then all the guys for the fair, Memorial Day, homecoming. That payroll is $850,000. That's just what it is. So we need to hear from you guys if that is something that is just non-negotiable, or if that is something that you would like to have us uh, cut shifts, which I don't think the police want, but I would like to hear from you guys. Would you like us to investigate contracts where we guarantee people in the village from the sheriffs or the state troopers, or would you like us to investigate less guys on for this shift? That those sorts of things. But what we do right now is two guys on 24/7, 365, and that is the cost. It is one of those things where if we did anything like this, it's going to have to be backed up by you guys. And I don't want to go down the road of some of these measures of micromanaging the chief or setting shift numbers or getting into contracts if that is not what people want. If people come to expect village police officers to uh, be two on all the time, um, this isn't the place we're going to find the savings. So I just wanted to say that the other thing I wanted to bring up was the court. Um, the court was dissolved under the previous board of mayor. That is true. Uh, it was sort of during COVID, felt like sort of a double dip. It was the same guy, good guy, but he was doing, uh, the work of both the village and the town in the one office. And it just didn't seem like it was a need there. The revenue from that from tickets funding the police department is just something that isn't one for one. We are, however, investigating, since it is our officers writing those tickets, a revenue sharing with the town. Unfortunately, I don't know that we have a legal leg to stand on, but it is customary. So we're asking them, and again, in this shared services scenario, people got to play ball. The other thing, and it's going to be minuscule. It'll be like 10% because they got to fund the building, the clerk, and the judge, and all that stuff. Ours is just the guys writing the tickets. And I like what our guys do. I think they do most stops trying to see if there's some bigger problem going on here. They aren't just out trying to generate a ton of revenue from these tickets. Someone who has a headlight out, we're not going to, hopefully pick on the little guy too much. Um, but it can be a revenue generator, and it could be a bit of money. So we are in the sharing negotiations, but I think even bringing the court back doesn't do what we might want it to do when it comes to funding the police department, because you do have a judge and a clerk to pay for, and the court fee from a ticket just barely does that. So I think that's two of the bigger arguments there. Uh, this is a huge piece of the budget, so it's the first place anyone wants to go to investigate. Um, and I would like to know from you guys if you want us to investigate harder or if this is a non-negotiable item. Um, I think it's nice. They've been previous police chief, current police chief, been just a call away for me as guys that I've known, stuff going on in my street. They'll even sit in my driveway if something that they want to keep an eye on. So uh, that's up to the people as far as I'm concerned. Um, but there is not significant when it comes to equipment and payroll places to just cut the fat. So we would have to decide if this is the way we want to do it. Um, I'm open to listening, but it's that's where it is right now. Other shared services include things like the rec and the fire. We're going to be coming up pretty soon to asking the people to vote on a fire district. The reason the fire district is not going to be a huge savings to anyone who gets fire coverage from people, but what you'll know is that that's where the money's going. So when a fire district is formed, there will be a board of commissioners who handle that budget and funding, and that budget will be set before the fire district is formed to have reserves and stuff like that in it to fund the next fire truck, the next round of purchases for breathing apparatus or turnout gear or whatever they need. And then that fire district can also sign contracts with Fayette or whoever they want to do, um, and they can increase revenue that way. But what will be nice is when you get your town bill that has fire protection coverage on it, um, that if they asking you to pay another $35 because of whatever happened, the brush truck lost an axle or something like that, you'll know that it's going to fire and they've been good, they've been responsive, lots of guys showing up. You're more than happy to. It's not going into our general fund like and get you all nervous about what we're spending it on. So the fire district is coming. I believe the town of Waterloo, who has to play ball on that, is going to require a public vote rather than just us just doing it. But that budget is almost done. Expect that announcement here pretty quickly. Um, I think the budget is done. The assessments of who's in the district and then the joint resolution is not done. That's coming up. The other one is actually the rec center. I'm investigating the rec center. Well, right now, what I'm doing is I'm forming a nonprofit uh, boosters, let's call it, for the community center. And I don't want this to just be necessarily like a youth sports boosters. I want it to be a community center boosters. And what they'll do is they'll be out raising money from the likes of SMI, Sessler, Fraser, Bruno Bach, Deep Dairy, Del Lago, Loves, all those places. And those people can be confident that it's going to the community center, not our general fund. Once those guys are doing that and they are funding uh, advances to the community center, new buildings, maybe even new employees and stuff like that. We'll investigate a couple years down the road if that is something we want to hand over control for. Take it right out of the village budget, but I think the village would probably still fund that a little bit. Now we get a bit of money from Fayette, Waterloo, Town of Waterloo, and maybe Junior Center because the community center is open to the school district. So, but what can happen there is that board with their own bank account can go ask them and say, hey, based on population or assessments or whatever, we'd like you guys to pay a little bit more. And I bet you they'll do it because, again, it's not going into our general fund. So these are some of the shared services that everyone's talking about as the way we save money here without um, raising taxes or get the things done that we want to do. Those are all being investigated. I think the only thing, most people online aren't wrong in what they're thinking. I think the only place they're a little bit misguided is in that it's easy. None of this stuff happens at the village level only. It could all fall apart this year that no one wants to play ball, and then we've got some difficult conversations happen. Do we want to start shuttering things? What do we want to close off other people from being allowed to use it because they won't pay? Stuff like that's got to happen. So that is what we're investigating, and that is what shared services is, and how we're going forward with it. Um, and we're going to try to fund these things without everyone getting nervous that we're wasting it at the village. That's starting to sound like dissolution, isn't it? Right? I am not for dissolving the village, even if some of these services go to a private board or even like the Water and Sewer Authority. And here's why. I think the DPW system at the village level is superior to the highway superintendent thing that they do. Not our highway superintendent in Waterloo, but the way that's structured. The town board sets a budget, and the highway superintendent can do or not do that's just a poor system in my mind. The other thing is, I think you should have 5 elected officials who, when they're not dealing with these things, are laser focused on economic development and relationships with like the state and canals and stuff like that. Right now, the problem is we're doing a lot of things just okay and not those two things perfectly. Um, so that is my stance on dissolution. Even if I start to get shared services going, there's another good point here. I was actually talking to another elected official from a different area. There's something to leaving the 11 elected positions rather than letting power consolidate in 5, right? There's something to the what if you do get a power hungry person who's got a lock on a voting block and isn't doing things very well, and you've only got those 5 positions. At least you've got the 11, the separation of power there a little bit. We're looking into some of these things. We're negotiating some of these things. We're quoting some things. We're doing all those things, and it is, but it's not easy, and it took a little bit of time to understand how things work to even have the ideas and what's legal and all that. But um, expect me to come out and defend some of these things or put it to a vote for you guys at a referendum very soon. And so that's how that works. I don't think there's anything else in this that I wanted to touch on. We hit the court, we hit the police pay, we hit dissolving the police, which would be a big thing, and I need you guys to tell me if that would even fly. I don't think so, given the doors I knocked on. But let me know. And then we hit shared services, water, sewer, fire, rec center. Um, there's even trash could be in there. But that is all stuff that we are at least talking to people on. I don't expect us to go another year without knowing what this is going to be or some of the stuff happening. The problem is for me, regrettably, it didn't line up with this budget season. So we're looking at trying to keep it flat while we figure this stuff out, and then we'll have the difficult conversations if none of it works or none of it can be done or whatever. But so I thank you. I'll post this and then we'll talk budget in the next video. Thank you.